Welcome to Zentangle Project Pack No.14. This is day 3. My name is Rick.
Hi, I'm Maria.
And we're going to go to another page in this wonderful, wonderful book of quotations and musings that Maria wrote. This is a place that you can own it and then appreciate all of these quotes and think of, how they apply to how you express your artist. And we are going to work on this page. Every artist was first an amateur. And that's an Emerson quote. And amateur is based on love. And
is it really?
Yeah, it's doing something for the love of it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right?
I didn't know that. Well, with amour in French, right?
Exactly. So that little line that I drew under amateur to emphasize that love and appreciation and gratitude is the elemental stroke that we're going to use throughout this first section.
Oh, the part that's in the square.
In this square.
Yeah.
So I'm emphasizing with my teal. Would that be teal?
It's kind of a teal.
Teal,
yeah.
green, turquoise jelly roll, which is my new favorite pen. And I am outlining it, and then I am making 2 little boxes here, just sort of going down the middle. And I am going to divide it vertically on one side. And you'll see I'm being careful to hold the pages so I'm not putting my fingers on the ink, because this ink takes a little bit longer to dry. So I'm going to divide this in half on both sides. And then I'm going to draw a diagonal from one corner to the other. And we are setting up these boxes to be sort of like the framework for paradox. And once we have these very precise and straight sections, we're going to tangle it. So that's our setup. So pick a section. I'm going to pick this larger one here on the right. And the way that we've come to do this is go from the corner to the line. And then wherever that last line stopped becomes the starting point or the continuation of that stroke. So corner to line, and I turn my booklet each time. And I have the idea of I'm going to sort of stop at a similar gap. And after we've done all 4 sides, you can see that we've got a slightly smaller shape rotated just a little bit inside the larger one.
This is an unusual shape for paradox. I don't know that you've done this shape before.
No?
Not on screen, anyway.
And this whole sense of being an amateur in the context of loving it, there's a sense of reverence for each stroke. So it's not like, okay, I got to get this done, or each stroke is special.
It's not sketchy.
It's not sketchy, right? It's not sketchy.
It's not sketchy. It's deliberate, and we talk about deliberate lines in Zentangle, which is different than a lot of other art forms.
And in some ways, this inspires you to do it deliberately. I know that a lot of tanglers who are also quilters will play with this pattern because it's one continuous stroke, just doing straight lines, and then you stop, turn the fabric.
You don't have to take your needle out.
You don't have to tie off and start again.
So you're always just sewing.
Yeah. So having that mental image helps me keep my place in doing this. So look at how, as we've continued to go, there's this gentle curve that is just naturally showing itself here. And that is the reason we called this paradox, because the paradox is that by doing straight lines over and over again, we get this sort of very gentle logarithmic curve.
But it doesn't look like a curve made out of straight lines. It looks like a curve.
It looks like a curve. And I think I'm going to do this one in a left-handed version. So if you are left-handed, look on the YouTube channel, and I will have made one.
Yes,
in left-handed. We're exploring that. You can see the blog where we've done that. But look at that cool shape in there, right? All straight lines. So now I'm going to do the one next to it, but I'm doing it so they share the same starting point. They're fanning out in the same way. In other words, where they all came together in that first four-sided shape, they're all coming together in the same way. So it continues that fan. And in your exploration, you could do it the other way just as easily, and you would come out with a different shape. And I invite you to, either go on the app where you can just search for free and see all the different ways that happens. But look at that fan shape that has appeared. And we call that a meta shape.
When you say fan, you're talking about like a rotating fan?
No, I'm like that. Oh, what would you call that? It's like a fan that you would move to cool yourself off or something, or that leaf shape, that arc shape.
Okay.
And I am going to just continue doing this, one stroke at a time, one straight line at a time, doing the four-sided shapes and the three-sided shapes. And you would think this is going to take forever, but it's, you can listen to some music that you like, you can listen to the quiet if you like, you can listen to a talk if you like, and just really get into the beautiful rhythm of this. And you'll see even at the last strokes, I turn my book around just so I don't lose my place. It's already looking pretty cool, huh?
It's very cool. So you're always going to the next block and finishing off or starting off with the line that was already there.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have as easily started with that second line.
Yes.
Okay.
And it would have... So as you do it, you'll get a sense of the different possibilities of going in different directions. So I'm sort of taking my time so you get a sense of doing this whole side and what it feels like. And then continuing, turning my tile. And I love the metaphor of, changing something without changing it. So look at that image on the left, or, the one that hasn't been, that one I'm pointing to. You see those straight lines? They're in the other side, but you don't see them. They've just been absorbed and transferred by that single line.
You can't see them
You
at all.
can't see them, but they're totally there, didn't touch them at all.
It's a magic trick.
It is a magic trick. And the beauty of this is that it really is about tangling. It's not about, okay, I want to achieve a particular outcome. It's following the steps of the pattern and then being like, whoa,
So,
when it's all done.
Again, your first stroke is just continuing the pattern from before.
By mirroring it.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's the key, is to mirror it. So we will simply do the same thing on this side, and it's going to be a total mirror image of the first side that we did. And you can see those beautiful meta shapes forming. And you can tell by looking at it, you can see I'm like moving that in the light, and you get a sense of if it's dry or not, because you can see the gel ink sort of like proud. It's like it hasn't flattened yet on the paper. So corner to line, corner to line. And then turning each time, and I'm always careful not to put my fingers on the ink. Get that last little triangle, even the last stroke, I'll turn it. So then I'll start where they all come together in that corner, because I'm going to mirror that triangle right next to it. And just by doing that, the dividing line of those shapes just becomes part of the pattern. And I like that, as we mentioned before, in some ways, to transform a situation, you don't need to remove it, you make it part of a new pattern. Even by using the very elements that created it in the first place, which was those straight lines. Okay, so it's like, okay, I'm going to start there, finish that. And we've got one more.
So you're always starting in the corner.
Mm-hmm. That was actually an insight that Molly came up with. When I first came up with this, I was starting at the line and going to the corner. But it makes much more sense to go in the corner and start in the corner and go to the line, because as she would say, it's easy to hit a line than it is a point. And an interesting story about this, see, I sort of make them meet just like my own inner game there. Interesting story is I came up with this and then discovered that, well, I wasn't the first one. It was an old quilting pattern. We also saw it in many different places afterwards. So I think that's probably similar for many of the patterns that we work with.
Pretty much all of them,
yeah. So that's all straight lines.
Very pretty.
So now let's switch pens.
To this beautiful gray. I really love working with this gray pen. Gray Jelly Roll.
I've made sure that the green ink is dry, and I just encouraging the pen to
come alive,
and just a very light stroke. I'm going to put an aura around this because I'm going to add another tangle, and the benefit of the aura is to separate the tangles to give each one of them a little air, so you've got a distinction between the two. Of course, turning the tile or the book. This tangle is going to be Hollis, and you can look that up in the newsletters and the story and how it came about. Maria and I were doing a seminar and Zen again in Taiwan, and we wanted to have something that was a pattern that was inspired by a local pattern, and we found this in these beautiful Chinese pottery, like plates and vases and everything in this museum in Germany. It's like, oh, this will be the perfect tangle, and so we introduced it there. It is essentially aura, and it's a nice mix with this because we're having nice curvy lines next to these straight lines that actually make curves. So make a curve, come back on itself. I think a really nice tangulation would be to do mukha shapes on this. So I'm doing a takeoff on those lines, just sort of when I begin the stroke. You'll see I slightly retrace that aura. So when I take off, it's a smooth transition. And then just go right across the binding there.
So there's no rhyme or reason to the shapes or the sizes of the curves. This is just ad-libbing as you go along, which is exactly the most fun part of Zentangle. It's totally different than what's in the middle.
And that's a really good point, because I'm responding to each element as I put it down. I'm not at all planning ahead like, okay, I want this many on this side, and I've got to cram one in. Just follow what the inspiration is within the boundaries, if you will, of the mechanics of that particular tangle that you're working. So I've got these all going in one particular direction, and now I'm going to add the really inspired part that was from that pottery motif, are these branching arcs that go in the other direction. So you make an arc and then just aura it back down. And then stop. And again, I'm going to do maybe all of them, maybe not all of them, but just whatever feels, or, take the inspiration from that spot when you're doing it. And then as you're doing it, love it. Just really, really have that sense of reverence for that line. No one else could make that line but you.
Well, that's a good point.
Right?
And appreciate it for that.
Yes. I've already made this line, so it doesn't need to be recreated. You haven't made your line yet, and only you can make your line the way you can make your line. I think that's why this whole process is so valuable, and why, the quote that was in Maria's first day is so important, because it really does soothe each individual soul to bring into existence what each individual soul, only that soul can bring in. So I'm just making these fit in here and there. A few of them go underneath in a hollow bar fashion. So that's a nice little frame there. maybe a couple more. So what I did there is I looked at it, and then I just felt, there could be something in that space. So let's just put something in that space. And that is totally up to you. So you decide, okay, just put something in. I know when I'm watching Maria, she'll look at her tile, and then
you can hear me thinking.
There's always one more thing. It's like, I'm done, I'm not. I'm done, I'm not.
That happens when you're on a roll on a really cool tile. You want to keep going on that tile.
This is something Maria came up with when we were doing it in Taiwan. I think you just sort of did it on the fly.
Well, we were going back and forth when we were tangling on at the podium, and you started with that, and I'm thinking, well, I can add this little thing that I had been working on, and we call it moon pies, and they kind of fit into little corners here and there, unexpected little places. They actually need another tangle to exist. You don't actually do moon pies on their own.
It's like those one of those tropical plants that live in trees. That
orchids?
Yeah, well, orchids would be like that. They don't like grow in the ground. They need another, and there's some sort of cactus, like standard to hold them. So moon pies are like that.
Moon pies. I really hadn't thought of that. Is there another tangle that's like that?
I don't know.
That
I don't
needs
think
another
so.
tangle for support?
Yeah. So I just found a few, and I do a rhythm. So there's 2 small auras. And then the first aura was filled in like a crescent moon. The second large space is 1 strand of Knightsbridge. And then on top is some tipple there.
That's a moon pie.
And there you go. And I'll put them in a couple places. If there's a really small one, I think maybe this was a small one, it's like a moon pie bud. It's what?
So
See,
it was named for crescent moon, and it was the shape of like a piece of pie.
Right. So I don't overdo it. I just want a few, touches in this moon pie ecosystem there. Okay, I think, yeah. So now I'm going to take my gray jelly roll and just aura around the tipple
of the moon pie.
Can you imagine somebody listening to this?
Listening to this, I think, what language are they speaking?
Tipple and aura around the moon pie. Got it.
Tipple the light, fantastic.
Right. And then those little tipples are so just inviting a dot of the that green ink, and it just sits up. I'm just letting it put a little dot there and just letting it come out and just not totally fill that, but it has a little aura around it. So I think we've got our ink down. And
the almighty pencil.
The almighty pencil. So now it's like, okay, what do I want to emphasize? What do I want to lift up? What do I want to put behind something? So generally the darker something is, the more it recedes. So where those lines came together, I'm adding some graphite. So it sort of emphasizes there a little bit darker, so that curved shape, which I was calling a fan, or it could be like a palm leaf or something, is raised up.
So you wouldn't do that on every shape, just here and there, is that correct?
I actually end up doing it on all of them throughout this whole thing.
Yeah?
Yeah. But only where they come together. See, so like where they're all like coming together and already a little bit dark, I do that. But I don't go all the way down because I'm going to use the tortillon to bring it out.
I see.
and then having the point of the tortillon in the direction that I'm trying to make, most precise.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. Yeah.
Right? So that's on one side, but look at the difference of with that and without that.
Mm-hmm.
So do the same on the other side. And then I'm going to go in and, I wanted to lift up the hollis tendrils there. So I'm going to lay down a whole bunch of graphite right up next to it, all the way around. Again, with the point pointing right up to the hollis.
Oh, so you're going around the squares.
Around the whole square. Mm-hmm. And then once I've got all of that done, I'm going to take my tortillon and just in little circles both invite the graphite into the paper and then slowly entice it out towards the edge. And as that happens, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. But by staying, not going over the hollis now all of a sudden becomes more contrasty and visible. The paper that is in this book is so wonderful to use the graphite on, as well as the ink. But see how that really lifts those out, and you can see it.
Nice effect.
So adding contrast is always such a something that we have in mind. Putting light next to dark, straight next to curve. Right? Solid next to line. So those, right? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if anybody wants to fool around with the E, there's that big E there that you can tangle around too. Feel free to do that.
And then, once you're done, find a nice place for your chop. And remember, the whole point of doing this is the amateurness, is the loving it, is the deliberateness. And thanks for hanging out with us.
See you later.
See you soon. Bye now.